The skill that kept downed pilots alive in 1944 is sitting in the public domain right now, and almost nobody has read it. Not because it was banned, because it was free, and nobody values what costs nothing. During the Second World War, the United States Army Air Forces had a problem. Crews were going down in jungle, desert, Arctic, and open ocean, and too many were dying not from the crash, but from the days after it. So the government did something rare. It paid experts to figure out exactly what keeps a human being alive in the worst terrain on Earth, printed it in a pocket-sized booklet, and stuffed a copy into parachute kits and life rafts. That booklet was titled Jungle, Desert, Arctic Ocean Emergencies. 174 pages, small enough to fit in a flight suit pocket. And here's the part that should bother you. Every technique in it was paid for with taxpayer money, proven in real emergencies, and then released to the public where it quietly disappeared. Welcome to the Survival Research. If you're not subscribed yet, hit subscribe and the bell. This is where we dig up what the survival industry buried under $400 gear. The modern survival market wants you to believe that staying alive is a shopping problem, that the answer is a $400 water filter, a $200 tactical knife, a $300 shelter system. The pilots in 1944 had none of that. They had a booklet and whatever they could improvise from a wrecked airplane, and they lived. The companies selling you gear today are not lying about whether their products work. They are just very quiet about the fact that the underlying skill costs nothing. There is no profit margin on knowledge that is already in the public domain, so nobody markets it. Stop. Before you go further, understand what this video actually gives you. 3 field-tested survival methods straight out of the original government manuals. The signaling technique a pilot could see from miles away, built from scrap metal. The water method that pulls drinkable water out of thin air for almost nothing, and the shelter and movement rules that kept lost crews from walking themselves to death. Each one costs you a few dollars in materials. Each one is older than your grandparents and works exactly as well today. But there are deeper analyses I could not fit into this video, and those are in the documentation. The link is in the description. Stop overpaying for what the government already figured out and gave away. Let me keep going. Let us start with the first one, signaling, because it is the technique that actually gets you rescued. The 1944 manual was blunt about it. A downed crew that could not signal was a crew that did not get found. The single best signaling device they listed was not a flare or a radio. It was a mirror, any piece of shiny metal. A rear vision mirror, a polished food tin, a strip of aluminum pried off the airframe. On a sunny day, a properly aimed mirror flash can be seen from miles away by a passing aircraft, far beyond the range of your voice or a small fire. Still watching? Then you already understand more about real survival than most people who spent a fortune on gear they have never tested. Subscribe and share this with someone who thinks preparedness is something you buy. The deeper breakdowns are waiting in the documentation. Link in the description. Now stay with me, because this first method has a detail people always miss. The trick was aiming the mirror, and the manual taught a simple method. You plant a stick 4 or 5 feet tall, line up the top of the stick with the target aircraft, then tilt the mirror until your beam of light hits the top of the stick. Keep the stick and the plane in line, and the flash lands on the cockpit. A signal mirror today costs around $5. The polished lid of a can costs nothing. The manual also taught smoke signaling. Lay several fires near your position, ready to light the moment a rescue plane is heard. Then the detail almost nobody remembers. Keep a small can of engine oil and a can of water beside the fire. Oil thrown on the flames makes thick black smoke that stands out against snow or sand. Water poured on makes a column of white steam that stands out against dark forest. You match the smoke color to your background, so the contrast does the work. That is not a gear purchase. That is understanding how a human eye finds a small object in a huge landscape. Now the second method, water. This is where the old manuals and modern survival videos both go wrong, so listen carefully. The famous trick is the solar still, a pit in the ground covered with a plastic sheet, with a cup in the center to catch condensation. You have seen it in 100 videos. Here is the honest truth the salesmen skip. In a hot, dry desert, digging that pit makes you sweat out more water than the still produces in a day. Field testers have measured it. A pit still might give you 8 ounces of water while the digging costs you far more. So the real technique, the one that actually works, is the transpiration bag. You take a clear plastic bag, slip it over a leafy living branch, and tie it shut. The sun heats the leaves, the plant releases water vapor through its pores, the vapor condenses on the inside of the bag, and clean water pools in the lowest corner. No digging, no sweating. You walk away and let the tree do the work. A handful of clear bags costs a couple of dollars, and you can hang several at once. The water that collects is already distilled and safe to drink. The same physics powered the ocean's solar, still the military issued to downed airmen. A clear plastic device developed at the start of the war that distilled drinkable water out of seawater, about a pint a day per unit. The science was never secret. It was just never sold to you because you cannot patent sunlight in a plastic bag. Now the third one, shelter and movement. The manual was clear that more lost men died from bad decisions than from the terrain itself. Rule 1. If your situation gives you shelter already, stay with it. The pilots were told to stay near the wreck because the airframe was shelter. The wreck was easier to spot from the air than a man, and wandering off was usually fatal. The modern version is simple. In a crisis, your stranded car or your home is the wreck. It is shelter, it is visible, and it holds your supplies. People die wandering away from it looking for help. Rule 2 was about not getting lost. The manual warned how easy it is to walk in circles in thick terrain, so crews marked every trail with knife cuts on trees, bent branches, or scraps of cloth, and never moved without leaving a trail back. Rule 3 was about your body. In the jungle, they were warned to stay dry because sweat-soaked clothing cooling on your skin drains body heat and invites sickness. In the cold, the same principle saves your life. You manage moisture and you manage temperature, and that is most of staying alive with no gear required. Every method in this video follows the same pattern. A survival problem the gear industry charges hundreds to solve. A solution that costs a few dollars and a little knowledge. And a reason nobody taught it to you, which is that there's no money in a free answer. The signal mirror, the transpiration bag, the stay with the wreck rule. None of them require a single expensive product. All of them were paid for by a government at war and then handed to the public for free. Let me be honest about the limits here, because that matters. These are emergency techniques, not magic. A signal mirror needs sun and a searcher in the sky. A transpiration bag needs green vegetation and will not save you in bare rock or deep winter. Staying with the wreck assumes someone knows roughly where you are. None of this replaces carrying real water, telling someone your route, and having a basic kit. What it replaces is the belief that survival is something you purchase instead of something you understand. The pilots who lived did not have better gear than the ones who died. They had better knowledge. So here is your choice. You can keep treating preparedness like a shopping list, buying gear you have never tested and skills you have never practiced, or you can learn the methods that already kept people alive in the worst places on Earth, most of which cost almost nothing. The manual was never hidden. It was just never read. The information was always there. The government paid for it, proved it, and gave it away. Now you have it. If this changed how you think about staying alive, subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Think about what that means for a second. The single most expensive research budget in human history, an entire nation at war, spent money working out how to keep one human being alive with nothing but scrap and sunlight, and the answer turned out to be cheap. A mirror, a bag, a decision to stay put. The cost of survival was never the gear. It was knowing what the gear was hiding. The men who carried that little booklet did not see it as a product. They saw it as the difference between walking home and never being found. Every share keeps a real knowledge alive instead of buried under marketing. The next research goes deeper than this one, and what we dig up next is heavier still, because the same pattern repeats everywhere you look. A government solves a hard problem at enormous cost. The answer turns out to be simple, and then the simple answer gets forgotten while someone sells you the expensive version. We are going to keep pulling those answers back into the light, one at a time.